Hey everybody, and welcome to my video about a technique for cluttering. And this one is, I can't think of a great name for it now, so hopefully I'll do it once I post the video in the description. But it's basically modeling other people's non-cluttered speech. And a nice thing about cluttering is that pretty much everyone else has much more fluid speech than the clutterer does. And so pretty much everyone can be a great example for clutterers. And so one of the things, I use this with outlining technique, and that's a different video, but basically with the summary of that technique is I tell a story, then my friend listens to my story, tells my story back to them, and then I listen to how they organized it, and then I tell their version of my story. And the cool thing about that is it comes out much, much more fluid. So this is a kind of pre-technique to that. This is just about when you hear a sentence or a couple sentences, modeling that. And there's some huge benefits to that. One of the things one of my first speech therapy sessions, because clutterers can't hear and reproduce pitch very well, they had this machine, and it had like the graphs of the lines of how pitch was, and then they played a few different pitches and asked me to reproduce them, and then the speech therapist was like, "Oh, it's easy, you just do it like this," and then she did it, and it was a really embarrassing thing for me because I didn't realize before then that I couldn't reproduce pitches, or that my skill level in reproducing pitches was really low, so it was just really depressing for me. So this technique is kind of like that, but it's much less depressing, because since you're modeling entire sentences, then and there are a whole bunch of things that go into sentences. There's a whole bunch of stuff that you can't do right, but then a whole bunch of things that you can do right. And so this technique is really great because you can feel like you're a success even if you're only catching like 2 or 3 of the 100 elements in that the other speaker is doing in a sentence. And this is from a YouTube clip. What I'm going to do is model it. It's best with a friend, or it's actually best with a speech therapist, because speech therapists know how to speak in a way that is very fluid, has an exciting tone, while at the same time being very regular in their speech. And so anyway, the best is a speech therapist, but basically you can do this technique with anyone, with your little brother, with your mom, with your grandma, with your boss, with your coworkers, at lunch. You can do it pretty much everywhere. So basically the technique is you get a book, or anything written, and then they say a sentence in the book as exaggerated or as exciting, as emotion filled, with as many ups and downs as possible, with some parts fast, some parts slow, just according to the book, like the little engine slowly going up the hill, and then very fast going down. So stuff like that, to practice like normal variation in speech, not cluttered variation in speech. So I used a variation of this technique. I teach a English class for a couple weeks after work, and to Thai people learning English. And we did the sentence. We did this video from Obama as a listening exercise, and basically in that class it's kind of a modified version of this technique, because we listened to this video first, then I gave my version of the video very slowly, reading it very slowly, and then a Thai student with really good English gave that version. And then we played Obama again, and my point was that because they're all about listening, because it's a listening exercise. But the first time they heard it, lots of people didn't understand. But then after hearing many versions, then they could understand very well the next time that they heard it. And so actually, this technique would be great if you had like three people, one person that has cluttering, and then two people that don't. Okay, so this we're gonna do what I'll do for this technique is just kind of model how you can do it, and I think kids' storybooks are actually the best for this, but you can do this on your own with YouTube videos. You can do it with whatever books that you're actually reading at the time, or whatever. So anyway, here's Obama, and I like picking U.S. presidents for examples because they've spent more money than anyone else getting really good speech. And so here's the first two sentences.
I've ordered every federal agency to eliminate rules that don't make sense. We've already announced over 500 reforms, and just a fraction of them will save business and citizens more than $10 billion over the next 5 years. We got rid of one.
Okay, and I don't know if you can hear that, and if I was good at editing, I would edit that in as a clip, but I'm not. So, okay. So I'm going to read it through just with my natural way to read it, which would be just as fast as possible. And I never read like this because I know that, oh well, people don't like to listen to me read as fast as I can. So here it goes. I've ordered every federal agency to eliminate rules that don't make sense. We've already announced over 500 reforms, and just a fraction of them will save business and citizens more than $10 billion over the next 5 years. So anyway, if I were reading that and I wasn't trying to like read it for anyone, that's how I would do it. But that's not the technique. But probably like if you just give the clutterer the speech, then that's how they'll do it. Or reading's usually pretty good for clutterers. When I practiced this before, I messed up on like 2 words because I was reading it really fast. Okay, so let me let me show you the technique again. That's how I would naturally do it. And what we're going to do is make it so I'm not doing my natural thing. I'm trying to do closer and closer to what Obama's doing, or whatever the speaker is. So this time I'm going to listen and try and remember. Okay, he's.
Federal agency to eliminate. I've ordered every federal agency to eliminate rules that don't make sense. We've already announced over 500 reforms, and just a fraction of them will save business and citizens more than $10 billion over the next 5 years. We got rid of one rule from 40 years ago.
Okay, and so now I'm going to say it again. And the only thing I'm noticing, if I had a piece of paper and a pen, or if I had it written out and a pencil, then I could make some notes, because the only thing that I really remember is that he said 500 reforms. So anyway, I'm going to practice like Obama. I've ordered every federal agency to eliminate rules that don't make sense. We've already announced over 500 reforms, and just a fraction of them will save business and citizens more than $10 billion over the next 5 years. And I really like, I noticed he said over the next 5 years really fast. So anyway, the technique then is to go back and forth maybe like 6 times over the same section, so that I can get closer and closer, or the clutterer can get closer and closer to the speech model.
I've ordered every federal agency to eliminate rules that don't make sense. We've already announced over 500 reforms, and just a fraction of them will save business and citizens more than $10 billion over the next 5 years.
Okay, and now I'm noticing he didn't say over the next 5 years. It was fast, but it was paced very, very well. So I kind of messed up on that. But let me try again. This might be a little bit too long, but I've ordered every federal agency to eliminate rules that don't make sense. We've already announced over 500 reforms, and just a fraction of them will save business and citizens more than $10 billion over the next 5 years. Okay, yeah, and I'm realizing this is a little bit too long for me because I can't remember everything. So actually, let's just practice the first sentence because that will be better. But I hope you're noticing that with every one, I'm getting my speech is a little bit more fluid and a little bit better. So now just the first sentence.
I've ordered every federal agency to eliminate rules that don't make sense.
Okay, I've ordered every federal agency to eliminate rules that don't make sense. Okay, and then again.
I've ordered every federal agency to eliminate rules that don't make sense.
I've ordered every federal agency to eliminate rules that don't make sense.
I've ordered every federal agency to eliminate rules that don't make sense.
I've ordered every federal agency to eliminate rules that don't make sense. And then you can. I hope you can see what I'm going for is that the more and more we practice this, then the more my speech becomes a little bit like the professional speech of an American president. And so actually with a partner when you're saying the same thing, there's a lot of other stuff that goes on that makes it more beneficial than just doing it with a YouTube video, because then the partner says, oh hey, well then the partner kind of models the clutterer speech a little bit, but like the good parts of the clutterer speech, and then they kind of go back and forth to get a version that wasn't necessarily the original Friends version, but a really good meld between the two. And so that's basically the technique. Hopefully it makes sense. And like I mentioned, it's a lot easier with kids books, because with kids books they have like a lot of emotion, the little train going up the hill, struggling, and then it's a lot easier to see. It's a lot easier to see those, or to have things to model and have things to exaggerate, and have things to say really fast and really slow, and just make for interesting stuff. So a couple things with this is one big question with this is probably, well, clutterers can read really well, but their speech breaks down when they're not reading. So why, Joseph, are you telling us to practice reading? And the thing about this is that just like with my pitch example, a lot of things that when I first started working on my speech, if speech has like 15 different things that are different like skills to and basically you have to have like 8 or above on each of the skills to be able to give really fluid speech. Then like with my speech, then I had probably like 6 or 8 of those that were level 1 or level 2, and like pitch was level 0, because that was just very hard for me, and so basically what I'm trying to teach you to do is to level up skills. I'm not suggesting that you try to speak perfectly right now. I'm just saying build up skills, and this is a technique that would have helped me just a ton. A couple things with this is that I didn't have very many opportunities to practice speaking where people understood me. I think like if I counted up the minutes before I seriously started devoting my life to getting more fluid speech, that people that I was speaking and people understood me, then it was just it was very low. And so even if you're reading, then you're even if you're practicing a reading exercise, you're practicing where you're saying something that the listener is understanding. And anyway, that's very, very important to be able to do that. One of my big things that I talk about a lot is that fast speech isn't bad, and that's a really big part of of a lot of speech therapy, is saying, oh well, we notice that when clutterers speak slowly, that they don't clutter. And so a lot of well-meaning people say, well, then let's just force them to always speak slowly. And the problem with that is it doesn't work. It's not fun. It's a horrible thing to be doomed to speaking slowly for the rest of your life. And then as a clutterer, I felt picked on. Like, hey, well, how come I have to speak slowly and everyone else can speak fast? So one of the nice things about this technique is that it kind of teaches you that some places you can speak fast, like when Obama on his last sentence spoke very, very fast. But then as I practiced it a few times, I realized, oh, he's not just speaking fast like I'm speaking fast, but he's speaking fast in a there's I noticed there's a lot of elements to his fast speech that I wasn't including yet. And so if I were to model that back and forth, then maybe after 20 times I'd be able to figure out, oh, okay, so here is how he was speaking really fast in a way that makes a lot of sense. And then also, it's really, really hard to use good speech in speech if you've never practiced with reading, and that may sound kind of counterintuitive, but basically, reading is a way to practice in a way that you can then use it in regular speech. So there is a disconnect, and this technique isn't going to fix everything, but it's a great technique. It builds confidence. It shows a lot of stuff, and I highly recommend it. So I think that's all I have to say about it, and thanks very much for watching.